Welcome to the latest episode of Inside the World of Sports. We're going to discuss the 2021 NFL Draft. Daniel, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right, give me your overall thoughts on the 2021 NFL Draft. What was your biggest takeaway?
I think my biggest takeaway was that teams had boards that were completely different from each other and from everybody else in the football world. Somebody like our Darius Washington going undrafted, things like that. I mean, it was a fun draft. A lot of unexpected moves, some pretty expected. I had a lot of fun watching it, keeping up with it. It was a lot of work, but I enjoyed the whole 3 days.
Yeah, I thought the draft was great. The one thing that I don't think a lot of people maybe considered when it comes to this draft, a lot of teams were saving picks or maybe moving back for next year's draft because they're going to have more time to evaluate players. It'll just be easier next year because hopefully this COVID situation will be out of the picture. So that was to me the biggest thing. Some teams maybe weren't willing to take a pick. They were willing to move back and get a pick next season. All right. Who are your winners for the 2021 NFL draft?
Well, for a team, I mean, there were quite a few teams that drafted pretty well, but I'm going to go with the Lions. They stayed at 7. Sewell fell to them. They got Levi on Wuzierke. I don't know how to say his name, but really good defensive tackle from Washington. They picked up Aleem McNeil. I like him. Ifeatu Melifonwu, I love that dude. I can't believe he lasted that long. Monroe St. Brown in the 4th round is great value. They got that linebacker from Purdue, Derek Barnes, and Jamar Jefferson in the 7th round. And I mean, those are all guys that can make an impact in the next 3-4 years. Some of them are going to make an impact immediately. And the Lions look like they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league next year. And I think their future might be a little bit brighter than we thought it might be.
My two winners are the Jaguars and the Bears for two simple reasons, or for one simple reason. They got their quarterback of the future. The Jaguars, they haven't had a good QB for a very, very long time, but Trevor Lawrence, if he can stay healthy and get better every year, he has a chance to be a very special one. And then the Bears traded up for Justin Fields. I was thinking about this. I was thinking about the Giants because Joe Judge wasn't there when they drafted Daniel Jones. It'll be interesting to see if Justin Fields ends up having a better career than Daniel Jones because the Giants could have had Fields. I know it wouldn't have been the popular move to make, but a lot of people are kind of iffy on Daniel Jones. And so if he ends up having a good career, it'll kind of be something to look back on. But they addressed the most important position in the NFL, the quarterback position. And for Trevor Lawrence, he'll be all right because his coach and GM will probably be there for at least the first few years of his career. Justin Fields, who knows what's going to happen in Chicago, but at least he'll have an opportunity to play right away. And I think he has a chance to do some very, very special things. All right. Who are your losers for the draft?
I think you got to start with Andy Dalton and Cam Newton. You know, their teams took quarterbacks, and they might start out. They both might start the season, but they probably won't start much longer. And I think the Packers. I mean, obviously they were losers going into the draft with the whole Aaron Rodgers situation, but then their draft just wasn't that inspiring. It wasn't. There was no pick that stood out and said, "Oh wow, that's a great pick right there." They didn't really do anything that would entice Rodgers to want to stay, and they just it was it wasn't a bad draft. They got some decent players, but it was just nothing that stood out. It was just an okay draft, and with everything going on with them, they really needed to nail this draft, and they just didn't.
I'm going to go with the Raiders. And the reason why I think the Raiders are the losers is because not that, I mean, they got some good players. It's just when they took their players. Like if you switch their first two picks, then I think that's a much better draft. But some of the players they took, a lot of people are scratching their heads like, why would you take them at the time they took them? It'll be interesting to see what John Gruden, in my opinion, he's going to have to make the playoffs within the next few years. Because even though he has a big contract, as we know, if you aren't getting the job done, they'll replace you really, really quickly. So he has to do everything he can to make the playoffs. Uh, I feel like I don't know off the top of my head, but if you didn't get the quarterback, like maybe Washington football team, I'm not sure if they ended up drafting a quarterback, but I think there's some quarterbacks they probably should have taken that they ended up not taking. Like Jamie Newman, he would have been a flyer taking him, but he ended up, I think, going as an undrafted free agent to the Eagles. If you don't address the most important position in the NFL, it's hard for you to win. They do have some time, but I don't care how good your defense is. If, as we saw with the Bears this past season, you better have good quarterback play, or you can only go so far. All right, what was maybe who were some players that you were really shocked they either went really really high or went really really low or didn't get drafted at all?
Well, I think Ardarius Washington's the name to start with there. I mean, I know some people that had, second round grades on him and he didn't even get drafted. I mean, I figured around the fourth, fifth round, at least pick him. He's small, yeah. But I think at that point, he's such a good football player. You just got to take him. Another one who fell. There was, what's his name? Tevin Jenkins ended up going to Chicago. I thought he was going to be a first round pick. I thought the Jaguars were going to take him at 25, and then they didn't. And the Bears ended up trading up in the second round to get him. And I think that was a great pick. He fits that system well. I think he's going to be incredible there. And an early pick, somebody went too early. I think Jason Owe went too early. I know he has a lot of potential, but he's just so raw that I don't know if I would have taken him in the first round.
I feel you. I'll go with the surprises. I'll probably go with Elijah Moore. I was stunned he wasn't a first round pick. He's just the one thing in the NFL everyone's looking for is speed. But and it kind of shows you that the Jets, as soon as he was there, the second day he was gone. And then I went to high school with Trey Smith, and I understand he had some blood clot issues, but I felt like once you got past in my opinion, once you get past the fourth round, you're probably not going to find a starter, but you can find some talent that can help you. I was stunned he lasted until the sixth round, and I think the Chiefs just got the rich get richer, got a stud in Trey Smith, and I won't be surprised in a few years if he started for them. You have any thoughts on what I said?
Yeah, I love Trey Smith. I had him. I kind of figured he would maybe be a late third round, into the mid fourth round type of guy, and then he had the blood clot issues come up. But talent wise, he's definitely up there in that third round area. And I mean, he's probably going to start for the Chiefs, maybe even week one, at least in his second year in the NFL, he'll be starting. And the Chiefs definitely got a good one, and they're upgrading that line big time.
I'm not sure if he's going to start that soon, but the Chiefs do have. I know what you're saying. He's really talented, has a lot of upside. It's just because you're playing with the Chiefs, and you got to be really, really ready to start for them. But who knows? You may be right. All right, which QB do you think is the biggest bust potential, and which QB do you think is a sleeper?
Biggest bust potential, I think, just because of their landing spots, Wilson and Fields could bust. I mean, I like their talent, but their landing spots, I think, could end up, because we don't know what's going to happen there yet. And I think sleeper, I'm going to go, even though I don't like his landing spot very much, I'm going to go with Davis Mills. He's got a lot of upside. He only played in like 11 games, so there's that concern. But they were talking about it all week on the draft on Mel Kiper, and everybody was talking about how if he played next year, he'd be a first round pick type of talent. And so obviously we're waiting to see what happens with Deshaun Watson, but he could end up being a pretty solid starter for a team if he needs to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love Davis Mills. I think he actually went to the perfect spot if they just don't play him right away. If you play him right away, I just don't think he's NFL ready. He needs to get some meat on them bones. He just isn't NFL ready right now. But if you give him time, I think he has a chance to be special. The QB that I'm kind of worried about is kind of Justin Fields. And also I'll maybe throw in Trey Lance. Because of expectations. Because I think he can be a little bit better than Jimmy G, but that's not what the 49ers did. The 49ers traded up. They passed on Justin Fields, Mac Jones, So Trey Lance better be the real deal, or the 49ers going to have some questions to answer. And Justin Fields, the problem is I think it's fair that he was a fourth quarterback. The problem is who knows who the hell the coach in a few years is going to be. Nobody knows with the Chicago Bears. Pace, how he's still there, I don't know. After picking Mitchell Trubisky over Deshaun Watson, still blows my mind. But that's my concern. All right, which team do you think has to win or they could get fired? And I don't know if you know that off the top of your head. Let me go first. I'll go with the Arizona Cardinals. I think the GM and the head coach, because it's playoff or bust, in my opinion. I think they had an all right draft. Some of their picks were head scratching, like Xavier Collins. I like him, but I think they could have gotten a better player at 16. But I like the Rondell Moore to Purdue pick. I think he and Kyler Murray, that's going to be a nice combination. But they got to make the playoffs. The way I look at it is Cliff Kingsbury is kind of like Chip Kelly, but Chip Kelly at least made the playoffs, and he had 2 winning seasons. Cliff doesn't have that. And so if they don't make the playoffs, I think Cliff and Con could be on their way out. What are your thoughts on who
I
could
think
be on their way out?
I think those two are definitely ones that could be gone if they don't make the playoffs. I would say the Bears, but they might have just bought themselves another year with a rookie quarterback. So I'm gonna go with the Broncos now. I mean, this is gonna be their 3rd year with Drew Lock, even though he's been hurt in COVID situation. But he's got everything around him that he needs. They've upgraded their offensive line. They've got great weapons. Their defense is looking really good. And if they don't make the playoffs this year, I think Lock, Fangio, and they just got a new GM. Like they promoted Elway, and I forgot who they hired. But I could even say who was it?
George from the Minnesota Vikings.
That's right. Because he just got hired, he might stay a little longer. But I could see Fangio and Locke being gone if they don't make the playoffs this year, unless they could get Rodgers, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. It all changes if you get Aaron Rodgers. But I feel like what's more likely is he'll rather retire. There's been some reports that he wants the GM to be fired, so that's another possibility. They fire him. I do like their Amari Rodgers pick. I think he has a chance to be a really good receiver. The question is, who's going to be the quarterback throwing the ball to him? Another team that I think their GM could be on the hot seat is Howie Roseman for the Philadelphia Eagles. How he's still there is very, very questionable, but he did have a solid draft. And he does deserve credit for building the Eagles into the team that ultimately won the Super Bowl. But you can also give a hell of a lot of credit to Doug Peterson and Nick Foles, and they're no longer there. And so it just makes you wonder how much longer Howie Roseman will be there. I do like their biggest move, in my opinion, wasn't even a move they made in the draft. It was a move they made in undrafted free agency by getting Jamie Newman. I think he has a lot of potential.
Well, we saw with Jamar Chase and Penei Sewell that it didn't hurt too much. I think it hurt Newman more than anybody, just because there was still so much we wanted to see from him. Raw, he had things that he had to improve on, and we just never got to see any of that when he went to Georgia. And so I think it really depended on the player in each case. I know Kenny Gainwell opted out, didn't he?
Yeah, I go to University of Memphis, so we were happy for him when he got drafted.
Yeah, I can't believe he fell that far.
Yeah, but I think he went to a good spot. He had, in my opinion, if he had a reason, because his family suffered from COVID and he didn't want more people done. So his reason, and I'm not saying other reasons aren't valid, but I think that's a better reason. But if he had played, he would have definitely gone higher in the draft.
I think he could have. I think he's a late third round talent, and I think that's probably the 3rd, 4th round is where he should have gone.
All right, what situation which player do you think will maybe shock some people that nobody's really talking about right now?
Oh man, I think I hate to say it, but it's in Philly, and he's my guy, Landon Dickerson. I love that dude. I mean, he's just, if he can stay healthy, I mean, he's going to be, they have Jason Kelce at center there. And I think he could kind of have that type of career. Now, whether it's at center or a guard, we'll see. But I mean, he could be a guy that's there for 10, 12 years, make a couple Pro Bowls, maybe an All Pro every now and then. I think Landon. I don't know if he's be a huge surprise, but I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, I think that's a good one with Landon Dickerson. I was hearing them talk that if he had been healthy, he would have been a first round pick. That's
Yeah.
how good of a lineman he was. I'll go with the Patriots. I think Mac Jones, if they don't play him right away, I think the Patriots may have gotten a really, really good quarterback. He's kind of the opposite of Cam Newton. He can throw the ball more accurately, and he's not as athletic, obviously, but I think he can still have a bigger impact. And they didn't have to move up. Those are the best things. You get the player you want and don't have to move up. So I think the Patriots. They also got, I think, Christian Barmore too, uh, defensive tackle, traded up to get him. I think he has a chance to be a really, really special player. All right.